Was there something hypocritical about the fact that the South existed and the North could point the finger? And then when the Civil Rights Acts were passed in the early 60s, you couldn't point the finger anymore?
Well, there was no doubt about the hypocrisy of large segments of the nation on the whole question of racial equality. I think the best example is that many of the senators from the North and the West, and congressmen generally, who voted for civil rights legislation in 64 and even 65 with the Voting Rights Bill, refused last year to vote for civil rights legislation because it dealt with an issue applicable to the North, the whole housing question. And this, it seems to me, was the greatest expression of the hypocrisy of many of our citizens and many of the senators and congressmen of the North.
But isn't that part of the dilemma now? That people knew that Negroes were being denied what was guaranteed to them by the Constitution, by the fact that they were citizens of this country. Then when they were given those rights, do you feel the white community said, well, we've given them all that we have, now it's up to them?
It isn't that they can't see the solution. It is that they can't see the problem. The Los Angeles, California riot had subdued, but the acrid smell of burnt wood and tar still hung heavy in the early morning air. A local television reporter scanned the crowd and spotted a familiar black community activist standing by a burnt-out grocery store. Sensing a good soundbite, the reporter asked for an interview. The bright lights came on, and the reporter began. 3 decades after the civil rights movement transformed the nation, why is the black community dissatisfied? Why have they rioted and destroyed their own neighborhood? What is the problem? The activist cocked his head and in a voice mixed with anger and indignation responded, surely the gangs of the civil rights movement in the 60s were important, but they turned out to be superficial and largely symbolic. We can sit at a lunch counter and vote, but economically, the civil rights gangs took more from us than they gave. Some blacks got important, big paying jobs in white businesses or government. Sure, we have our Colin Powells and Oprahs, but the black masses are left behind. So you see, integration came at the expense of the black community. Now things are worse than ever. We have more killings and crime, more school dropouts and drug users. Integration killed our communities. We have no black economic structure to solve the problems of our community.